My name is Nancy Austin. I'm 35. 3 weeks ago, on Saturday, June 8th at 2:47 in the afternoon, I stood at the back of Riverside Chapel in my $1,800 wedding dress, the one I'd saved for across 11 months, watching my father push my mother's wheelchair past two empty seats in the front row. Seats I'd reserved 3 months earlier. Seats I'd paid the venue an extra $200 to accommodate wheelchair accessibility for. Seats with cream cardboard placards that read, Vernon and Carol Austin, parents of the bride, in gold calligraphy that cost me $40. He rolled her straight past those seats and parked her wheelchair in the very last row, 47 feet from where I was standing. I know it was 47 feet because the venue coordinator had measured it when I'd asked about the processional distance. The chapel held 120 people. 87 had come. All of them watched this happen. "Mom's back," my father said when I approached them after the ceremony, my bouquet of white roses still shaking in my hand so hard that petals were falling onto the floor. The drive was too much. 30 minutes in a car? You know what that does to her spine, Nancy. I looked at my mother. She was scrolling through her phone, liking Instagram photos of Madison's new townhouse in Portland, the exposed brick one with the industrial kitchen, 1,847 square feet, $485,000. My sister had closed on it that Thursday, June 6th, 3.5 hours by plane from Iowa City. My parents had flown out Friday morning on the 6:20 a.m. flight. I knew because Madison had posted a photo of them at baggage claim, champagne bottle in hand, caption, "Best housewarming crew ever." They'd toured every room. They'd brought a $300 bottle of Dom Perignon. They'd stayed through Sunday. "You flew to Portland 2 days ago," I said quietly. My maid of honor, Jessica, touched my elbow, a warning, a plea to let it go. But I didn't move. "You were gone for 4 days. PDX to DSM is 3 hours and 42 minutes. My father's face hardened in that way it always did when I pointed out inconsistencies. His jaw clenched. The vein in his left temple started to pulse. "That's different, Nancy. That's important." "My wedding isn't important?" "Don't make everything about you." My mother didn't look up from her phone. Her thumb kept scrolling. Like. Madison needed us. She's buying her first home. This is a huge milestone for her. You're just doing what everyone does eventually. Getting married isn't exactly special anymore. I felt my face burn so hot I could taste copper on my tongue. That metallic pre-vomit taste. 43 people heard that. I counted them later, when I couldn't sleep. 43 witnesses watched me nod, smile with my mouth but not my eyes, and turn away like I'd just been told something perfectly reasonable. My husband, Michael, found me 6 minutes and 34 seconds later. I know because I was staring at my watch, watching the second hand go around and around, trying to make time move differently. He found me sitting on the tile floor of the women's bathroom with my $1,800 dress pooled around me like spilled milk, like something ruined and expensive and impossible to fix. "They didn't even sit in their seats," I whispered. He knelt beside me, careful not to wrinkle his rented suit. $240 for the weekend, another expense I'd covered. "I know, Nance. They reserved them 3 months ago. I called Mom on March 14th to confirm. She said yes. She said they'd be there. I paid extra. I labeled them. I know. 30 minutes was too far, but Portland wasn't. 4 days in Portland was fine." Michael didn't have an answer for that. Nobody did. What do you say when someone's parents choose a housewarming over a wedding? When they sit in the back row of the most important day of your life, like they're strangers who wandered in off the street? Jessica knocked on the door. "Nancy? Sweetheart? Everyone's waiting for the first dance." I pulled myself up, fixed my makeup, walked back out into that chapel where 87 people had watched my parents reject me in real time, and I danced. I smiled, I cut the cake, I threw the bouquet, and I pretended it didn't matter. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, Please hit like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. Because what happened 3 weeks after that wedding, what I found in my office on a random Tuesday morning, it changed everything I thought I knew about my family, my grandmother, and the $150,000 that disappeared from my life when I was 18 years old. Let me take you back 17 years to the last time I felt like someone actually saw me. I was sitting in Grandmother Rose's kitchen at 412 Elmwood Drive, the house with the yellow door and the garden that always smelled like lavender and rain, even in winter. The kitchen smelled like vanilla extract and old books and cinnamon, always cinnamon, because she baked snickerdoodles every Sunday without fail. It was May 2007. I was 18, 3 months from high school graduation. The acceptance letter from University of Iowa was on her kitchen table, creased from how many times I'd folded and unfolded it, read and reread it. Full academic scholarship, she said, her flour-dusted hands working dough on the marble countertop her husband had installed in 1962. She wasn't asking. She already knew. She always knew everything about me before I said it out loud. Full tuition, I corrected, but room and board is still $11,000 a year, plus books, which they estimate at $1,200, plus meal plan overages, plus parking if I ever get a car, plus Nancy. She turned from the oven, and her eyes, that sharp, knowing gray that missed nothing, fixed on mine. The trust fund is yours. I set it aside in 1999, the year you turned 8, $150,000. Your parents are legal custodians until you turn 21, but the funds are designated specifically for your educational expenses and nothing else. Do you understand what I'm saying? Specifically, for you. I nodded. I didn't understand what custodian meant. I didn't know what UTMA stood for. Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, I'd learn later. I didn't know that trust funds could be stolen by the people who were supposed to protect them. There are rules, she continued, sliding a tray of cookies into the oven, setting the timer for exactly 12 minutes. The money can only be used for your education, not Madison's, not your parents'. Yours. I put that in writing. I had a lawyer draft the paperwork. Your father signed it. Do you understand? Yes, Grandma. I'm leaving you something else, too. She wiped her hands on her apron and came to sit beside me at the table. She smelled like vanilla and John Nade bath powder. A letter. You won't get it until I'm gone, and I hope that's a very long time from now. But when you do read it, little star, you'll know I always saw what they couldn't. Little star. She'd called me that since I was 4 years old, the night I'd pointed at Venus in the evening sky and asked her if stars could get lonely up there all by themselves. Stars are never lonely, she'd told me, pulling me onto her lap on the porch swing. They burn too bright to be lonely. And you, Nancy Elizabeth Austin, you burn brighter than all of them. I remember that I cried. I was 4. I didn't understand why it made me cry. 3 months later, on August 19th, 2007, Grandmother Rose died of a massive stroke in her sleep. The housekeeper found her at 7:30 a.m., still in bed, her reading glasses on the nightstand, a book about the solar system open to a page about Venus. I didn't get to say goodbye. My mother called me at 9:15 a.m. I was at the mall with friends, trying on homecoming dresses I couldn't afford. Your grandmother passed, she said. No preamble, no softness. The funeral is family only. We'll call you when it's over. I drove to the house on Elmwood Drive. The yellow door was locked. My father's car was in the driveway. I could see people inside through the window. I knocked for 6 minutes. Nobody answered. They buried her on August 22nd at Oaklawn Cemetery. I found out from the obituary in the newspaper. Private family service, it said. I wasn't invited. The letter she'd promised me, it never came. Not that week, not that month. Not when I started college in September, taking out my first student loan, $18,000 for year 1. And when I turned 21 on February 14th, 2010, and asked my father about the trust fund, about Grandmother Rose's $150,000, he looked at me like I'd just asked him to explain string theory in ancient Greek. What trust fund? He said. We were in their living room on Oakmont Street, the house with the white colonial shutters that Madison would eventually inherit. It was 6:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. My mother was beside him on the leather couch, knitting something pink and soft, her needles clicking in steady rhythm. Grandmother Rose's trust, I said. My student loan statement was in my bag. $36,000 now, 2 years of borrowing. The $150,000 UTMA account she set up for my education. She told me about it in 2007. You're the custodian. She said you signed paperwork. My father set down his copy of the Des Moines Register, folded it with precise, sharp creases. Nancy, your grandmother had dementia at the end. She got very confused about finances. There was never a trust fund in your name. My stomach dropped like I was in an elevator with cut cables. She didn't have dementia. She was completely lucid. She gave me specific details. She said $150,000. She said you signed. Family resources are family resources, my mother interrupted. Her needles never stopped clicking. Click, click, click. Rose left money for the family, not just for you individually. We used it appropriately for family educational needs. The math hit me immediately. Family educational needs, not my needs. You used it, I said slowly. For what? Madison's education, obviously. My father's tone suggested this should have been obvious. Worthington Academy is $18,000 a year. 4 years is $72,000. Her junior year abroad program in Florence was $27,000. That's tuition, housing, travel, meals, studio fees. Then there were art supplies for her portfolio, $3,400. SAT prep, $800. Application fees for 12 schools, $960. Housing deposit at Portland Art Institute, $2,500. Her laptop for college, $2,200. That blue Volkswagen, $8,500 down payment. He rattled off these numbers like he was reading a grocery list. I did the math in my head. $72,000 plus $27,000 plus $3,400 plus $800 plus $960 plus $2,500 plus $2,200 plus $8,500, $117,360. That's more than the trust, I whispered. We supplemented with our own funds, my mother said. Because we're parents, we invest in our children. Children. Plural. The word was a knife. I took out $89,000 in student loans, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else standing across the room. I'm paying $847 a month. I'll be paying until I'm 41 years old, until 2031. That's what loans are for, my mother said. She still hadn't looked up from her knitting. That's what responsible adults do. They pay their own way. But the money was designated for my education. Nancy. My father stood up. The conversation was over. I knew that posture. Shoulders back, chin up, voice dropping half an octave. I'm not going to argue with you about ancient history. Your grandmother loved all her grandchildren equally. If you're in debt, that's a consequence of your choices. You chose University of Iowa. You chose that expensive psychology degree instead of something practical. You chose to live beyond your means in that apartment instead of commuting from home. Those were your choices. I chose. I chose. I chose. That phrase would echo in my head for the next 14 years, every time I ate ramen for dinner, every time I wore my Goodwill interview suit to important meetings, every time I transferred $847 on the 15th of every month to Navient student loans. I chose this. Except I didn't. I worked 3 jobs through college. Admissions office assistant, $11, $50 an hour, 15 hours a week. Weekend barista at Java House, $9 an hour plus tips, 12 hours. Friday night bartender at Sports Column, $8 an hour plus tips, 6 hours. I graduated in May 2013 with a degree in education and psychology and $89,000 in debt. I got a job at University of Iowa as an admissions counselor. Starting salary, $42,000. After taxes, I took home $2,670 a month. Rent, $875. Student loans, $847. Car payment on my used 2009 Honda Civic, $260. Car insurance, $140. Groceries, $200 if I was careful. Utilities, $110. Phone, $75. Gas, $80. I had $83 left every month for everything else: clothes, toiletries, medical expenses, emergencies, life. Madison graduated from Portland Art Institute in 2014, debt-free. My parents bought her a condo as a graduation present, $175,000, two-bedroom, downtown Portland, exposed brick, hardwood floors. The resentment wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, constant, like tinnitus. A high-pitched ringing you learn to live with but never stops. It was there when I ate Maruchan ramen 4 nights a week, 38 cents a packet, while my mother posted photos of Madison's birthday dinner at Cascade Room. $68 steaks, wine pairings, chocolate lava cake with gold leaf. It was there when I wore my $35 Goodwill blazer to my 5-year work review while Madison launched her Etsy shop with a $15,000 loan from our father, interest-free. "Pay me back when you can, sweetheart." She never did. He forgave it in 2018. It was there every Christmas when Madison got a check for $5,000 and I got a $50 Target gift card. It was there on June 8th, 2024, when my parents sat in the back row of my wedding. But I didn't know, couldn't have known, that Grandmother Rose had been planning for this exact moment since 1999, that she'd written a letter, that she'd hidden documents, that she'd chosen someone to wait for exactly the right time. The right time came on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024, at 9:14 a.m. Nice. I was at my desk at the University of Iowa admissions office, 3rd floor of Calvin Hall, reviewing scholarship applications for first-generation students, kids who reminded me of myself, kids who were trying to claw their way into college without family money, without safety nets, without trust funds that mysteriously disappeared. I'd been doing this work for 11 years. It never got easier. Every denied application felt personal. Every kid who couldn't afford textbooks felt like looking in a mirror. My office phone rang, the old beige landline that nobody called except work contacts. Nancy Austin. Admissions. My standard greeting. Nancy Austin? A man's voice. Formal but warm, grandfatherly. My name is Donald Pritchard. I was your grandmother Rose Mitchell's attorney. I have something for you. Something she left. Can you come to my office today? I set down the application I'd been reading. My hands had gone very cold. My grandmother died in 2011, 13 years ago. I know. I've been holding something for you since 2009. She made me promise to wait for the right moment. I believe today is that moment. Waiting for what? It's better if I show you in person. My office is at 1847 Riverside Parkway, Suite 301. Can you be here at 11 o'clock? I looked at my calendar. 3 prospective student tours at 10, 1, and 3. A meeting with the financial aid director at 2 p.m. 47 applications to review before Thursday's committee meeting. I'll be there, I said. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not Michael, not Jessica, not my supervisor. I just grabbed my purse and walked out of Calvin Hall at 10:42 a.m. I drove to Riverside Parkway in my Honda Civic, 174,000 miles. Check engine light on for 6 months because I couldn't afford the $850 repair, and parked in front of a brick building with ivy climbing the walls like it was trying to pull the whole structure back into the earth. Suite 301 was on the 3rd floor. No elevator. I climbed stairs that smelled like old carpet and lemon cleaner. Donald Pritchard's office was small. Law books floor to ceiling. A single window overlooking the Iowa River. A wooden desk that looked like it had been there since 1970. He was exactly what you'd picture. 70-something, gray beard, wire rim glasses, cardigan with patches on the elbows. He stood when I entered, shook my hand. His grip was warm and firm. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," he said. "I know. She came to me in June of 2003. You were 12 years old. She wanted to set up a UTMA trust, that's Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, for your college education, $150,000. She was very specific. The money was designated exclusively for your educational expenses. Your parents were named as custodians because Iowa law requires it for minors, but the legal restrictions were clear. The funds could only be used for you, not your sister, not family resources. You. Do you know what happened to that trust?" My throat was dry. "They spent it on Madison." He nodded slowly. "I suspected as much. Rose suspected it too. She didn't trust your parents, and please forgive my bluntness, but these are her words, not mine. She didn't trust them to honor the terms. But legally, she had no choice. UTMA accounts require custodians for minors. She chose them because she had no other option. But she wasn't naive, and she wasn't unprepared." He opened his desk drawer and pulled out a sealed manila envelope. Thick, heavy. My name was written on it in Grandmother Rose's handwriting. Careful, looping letters in blue ballpoint ink. She gave me this in April of 2009, 2 years before she died. She made me promise, made me swear on my own grandchildren, that I wouldn't give it to you until you were married or turned 35, whichever came first. She said, "Nancy will need proof, and she'll need to be strong enough to use it. Don't give it to her when she's 21 and still believes her parents might change. Wait until she's built a life. Wait until she's ready to burn it all down if she has to." My hands shook as I took the envelope. It weighed almost nothing. How could something so light contain so much? "There's more." Donald pulled out an accordion folder from under his desk. Red, expanded to at least 4 inches thick. "These are copies of the original UTMA trust agreement. Bank statements showing every withdrawal your parents made between 2007 and 2010. Evidence that those withdrawals were used exclusively for your sister's expenses, private school tuition, study abroad, vehicle purchase, personal items. Your grandmother collected all of this. Witness statements from teachers at Worthington Academy, receipts from the Florence program, credit card statements your father showed off at a family dinner in 2008, bragging about Madison's opportunities. Rose wrote it all down, saved everything." "How did she know to do that?" "Because she knew your father," Donald said simply. "She told me he'd been taking from you and giving to Madison since you were both small children. Christmas presents, birthday money, attention. She said it was a pattern, and patterns don't break, they escalate." I stared at the envelope. I couldn't open it. Not yet. Not here. "What do I do with this?" I whispered. "That's entirely your decision. But if you want my professional legal opinion," Donald folded his hands on his desk, "you have grounds for a lawsuit. Breach of fiduciary duty, misappropriation of custodial funds, fraud, potentially. Your parents violated the explicit terms of the trust agreement. They stole from you. The statute of limitations on this is complex, but given that you only recently discovered the extent of the fraud, and given that Rose's evidence is this comprehensive and well documented, you have options." Would I win? Yes, unquestionably. I left his office at 11:52 a.m. carrying the envelope and the accordion folder. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 34 minutes, engine off, hands on the steering wheel, staring at my name in blue ink. Then I opened it. The letter was 2 pages, handwritten on cream stationery with tiny pressed flowers in the corner. Dated April 15th, 2009, 2 years before she died. 5 years before I'd even ask about the trust. My dearest Nancy, my little star, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and your parents have already done exactly what I knew they would do. They've taken the money I left for you, money I designated specifically and legally for your education, and they've given it to Madison. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I tried to protect you while I was alive. I tried talking to your father. I tried reasoning with your mother. But your father doesn't hear reason. He only hears documents. So I made documents. Do you remember that night when you were 7 years old and you asked me why your parents loved Madison more than you? We were sitting on my porch swing. It was June. The fireflies were out. You'd been crying because your mother had missed your piano recital to take Madison to a birthday party. I told you it wasn't about love. I told you it was about fear. Madison demands things. She throws tantrums. She makes scenes. You endure things. You go quiet. You make yourself smaller. Demanding is louder, Nancy, but enduring is stronger. I knew Vernon would betray the trust. I knew he'd find a way to justify it. Family resources, probably that's his favorite excuse. I knew Carol would go along with it because she always does. So I prepared. The original UTMA trust agreement from 1999 is with my attorney, Donald Pritchard. His office is at 1847 Riverside Parkway, Suite 301, Iowa City, Iowa 52240. The copy I've left you includes withdrawal records from 2007 to 2009 showing exactly where your money went. Worthington Academy tuition payments, Florence study abroad deposits, the down payment on Madison's Volkswagen, every single unauthorized withdrawal. Inside this folder, you'll find the signed UTM, a trust agreement with clear, legally binding language, restricting funds to your educational expenses only. Bank statements showing $99,000 in unauthorized withdrawals between 2007 to 2010. Witness statements from Worthington Academy's bursar confirming Madison's enrollment and payment source. Your father's own email to the Florence Study Abroad Program Coordinator, where he references Rose's education fund for my daughters, plural, Nancy, even though the fund was only for you. Receipts, credit card statements, and a paper trail that proves every single dollar I also set aside $38,000 in a separate savings account, not a trust, just a regular account in my name alone, that your parents don't know exists. That money is yours. Donald has the account information. It won't erase your student loans, but it will help. Use it however you need. Don't show this to anyone yet, not even Michael if you've found him by now. I hope you have. I hope he's kind. I hope he sees you the way I do. Don't tell your friends. Don't tell Madison. Wait until you're ready. Wait until you're strong enough to face them without guilt, without that voice in your head that says you're being selfish or dramatic or ungrateful. You're not selfish. You're not dramatic. You're not ungrateful. You are the child they made invisible, but you were never invisible to me. All my love, always and forever. Your little star's biggest fan, Grandma Rose. I read it 3 times sitting in that parking lot. Then I read it a 4th time. Then I pulled out the bank statements. There it was, black and white, undeniable. August 12th, 2007. Withdrawal, $18,000, Worthington Academy, annual tuition. December 3rd, 2007. Withdrawal, $14,500, Worthington Academy spring semester. September 3rd, 2008. Withdrawal, $27,000, Florence Study Abroad Program. Deposit, March 15th, 2009. Withdrawal, $8,500, vehicle down payment. Volkswagen Jetta, June 2nd, 2009. Withdrawal, $12,000, Portland Art Institute housing deposit. September 1st, 2009. Withdrawal, $18,000, Worthington Academy. Senior year, $98,000 in withdrawals, all for Madison, none for me. I found my father's email, printed on actual paper, dated July 18th, 2008. Dear Ms. Kowalski, Per our phone conversation, the $27,000 deposit for Madison Austin's participation in the Florence Summer Arts Program will be transferred from Rose Mitchell's education fund, which was established for family educational purposes. Please confirm receipt. Best regards, Vernon Austin. Family educational purposes. The lie was right there, in writing, in his own words. The witness statement from Janet Kowalski, Worthington Academy bursar, dated March 3, 2009. Vernon Austin has confirmed that tuition payments for Madison Austin, class of 2010, are being made from a designated college fund established by his mother, Rose Mitchell. He indicated this fund was set up for his daughter's educational expenses. Daughters, plural. My hands were shaking so hard the papers rattled. I called Donald Pritchard from my car. I want to sue them, I said. I want to file a lawsuit today. There was a pause. Nancy, are you absolutely certain? This will destroy your relationship with your parents. There's no coming back from this. What relationship? I heard my voice crack. They sat in the back row of my wedding 3 weeks ago because driving 30 minutes was too hard. But they flew to Portland for Madison's housewarming party. They stole $150,000 from me and told me it was my fault for choosing to go to college. What relationship am I destroying exactly? Another pause, longer this time. I'll draft the paperwork, Donald said quietly. But Nancy, may I suggest something first? Before we file with the court, before this becomes public record, let me arrange a settlement meeting. Give them one chance to make this right privately. It might be faster, it might be cleaner, and it might give you the outcome you want without years of litigation. They'll never come to a meeting if they know it's about this. They will if I tell them it's about Rose's estate, if I tell them there are additional funds to distribute, if I make them think they might get something. I thought about that, the cruelty of it, the poetic justice. Set it up, I said. The meeting was scheduled for Monday, July 15th at 2 p.m. Donald sent formal letters on his law firm letterhead to my parents and to Madison. Estate of Rose Eleanor Mitchell, discovery of additional assets, mandatory family meeting for distribution. He didn't mention me. He didn't mention fraud. He just dangled the possibility of more money. They all RSVP'd yes within 6 hours. I took the day off work. I told my supervisor I had a medical appointment. I wore my best interview suit, the one I'd finally been able to afford to buy new last year, navy blue, $240 from Macy's. I arrived at Donald Pritchard's office at 1:55 p.m. He met me in the waiting room. Are you ready? He asked gently. No, I said, but I'm doing it anyway. He led me to the conference room. It was small, wood-paneled, with a table that seated 8. My father was already there, sitting at the head of the table like he owned the place. He had his own accordion folder in front of him, not the same one Donald had given me, but similar, official-looking. My mother was beside him, hands folded on the table, her face perfectly neutral. Madison was across from them, scrolling through her phone, completely unaware. They all looked up when I walked in. My father's face went through 3 expressions in 2 seconds: confusion, recognition, anger. Nancy? He said slowly. What are you doing here? This meeting is about Grandmother Rose's estate. Sit down, please, Vernon. Donald closed the door behind us. His voice was calm, professional, completely unruffled. Everyone, please remain seated. I sat at the opposite end of the table, as far from my father as possible. I put my hands in my lap so no one could see them shaking. Donald remained standing. He opened his own folder, a blue one, thicker than any of ours. This is a settlement meeting, he said, regarding the misappropriation and fraudulent use of Nancy Austin's UTMA trust fund, established by Rose Mitchell in 1999. The room went very, very still. My father's face didn't change, but I saw his hand clench on the table. I don't know what you're talking about. Then let me refresh your memory. Donald slid a document across the table. It landed directly in front of my father. This is the UTMA trust agreement signed by you and Carol on November 12, 1999. Page 3, paragraph 5, specifies that the $150,000 in the account is designated exclusively for Nancy Elizabeth Austin's educational expenses. Your signature is at the bottom. My father didn't touch it. Between August 2007 and September 2009, Donald continued, you withdrew a total of $99,000 from that account. Not a single dollar was used for Nancy's education. All of it was used for Madison's private school tuition, study abroad program, vehicle purchase, and college housing. These are the bank statements. He slid another stack of papers across the table. These are the receipts from Worthington Academy and the Florence program. Another stack. This is your email to the study abroad coordinator, dated July 18th, 2008, in which you explicitly state the payment is coming from Rose Mitchell's education fund. One more page. My mother had gone absolutely white. Madison looked up from her phone. Wait, what? Your parents, Donald said, looking directly at her, stole Nancy's college fund and spent it on you. That's not, my father started. It is, I said. My voice was steady, calmer than I'd expected. Grandmother Rose left $150,000 for my education. You were supposed to hold it in trust until I was 21. Instead, you spent $99,000 of it on Madison before I even graduated high school. Madison's face had gone pale. I didn't know, I swear I didn't. I know you didn't know. I kept my eyes on my father. But he did. They both did. This is ancient history, my father said. His voice had that edge, that sharpness, the tone that meant end of discussion. Rose's estate was settled years ago. You can't just show up with some paperwork and— I can, Donald interrupted calmly, because Nancy only discovered the fraud 3 weeks ago, and because Rose Mitchell anticipated this exact scenario. He pulled out another document, the letter, still in its original envelope. Rose left a sealed letter with me in 2009 to be delivered to Nancy when she married or turned 35, whichever came first. In that letter, she explicitly states that she knew Vernon and Carol would misuse the trust funds. She documented everything. She collected evidence for 5 years. She prepared for this. He slid the letter across the table. It landed in front of my father like an accusation. My father stared at it, didn't touch it, like it might burn him. Nancy has grounds to file a lawsuit for breach of fiduciary duty, Donald continued. The damages would include the full $150,000 trust amount plus compound interest over 17 years, approximately $198,000 in today's dollars. Plus Nancy's student loan debt of $89,000, which she would not have incurred if the trust had been used as legally mandated. Plus emotional distress damages, plus legal fees. We estimate the total claim at approximately $320,000. My mother made a small sound, not quite a gasp, something quieter. However, Donald said, Nancy is willing to settle this privately, today, without filing a lawsuit. The settlement amount is $188,000, which represents the trust funds plus Grandmother Rose's additional savings account, which your parents were not aware of. In exchange, Nancy will sign a release agreeing not to pursue further legal action. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the air conditioning humming. We don't have $188,000, my mother finally whispered. Then we'll file the lawsuit tomorrow, Donald said, and a judge will order payment through whatever means necessary. Wage garnishment, asset liens, potentially forced sale of property, he paused. The house on Oakmont Street is valued at approximately $340,000, correct? A forced sale would more than cover the judgment. My mother made that sound again. Madison was staring at our parents. Is this true? Did you really take Nancy's college fund? My father didn't answer. Dad! Madison's voice was sharp. Actually sharp. I'd never heard her use that tone with him. Is this true? It's complicated, Madison. It's not complicated, I said. My voice was louder than I intended. It's actually extremely simple. Grandmother Rose left money for me. You stole it. You spent it on Madison. You lied to me for 17 years. You made me believe I wasn't worth investing in. You made me take out $89,000 in loans. You sat in the back row of my wedding because I wasn't worth 30 minutes of your time. That's not complicated. That's theft. Family resources are family resources, my mother said quietly. Her voice was shaking. Rose wanted to help the family. Stop saying that! I slammed my hand on the table. Everyone jumped. Even Donald looked startled. It wasn't family resources. Read the document. Page 3, paragraph 5. Funds designated exclusively for Nancy Elizabeth Austin's educational expenses. It was my money, my name, my education. You had no right. My father opened his mouth, closed it. His face was red now, that vein in his temple throbbing. We wanted to give Madison opportunities, he finally said. His voice was quieter, almost defensive. She needed Worthington. She needed Florence. She needed those experiences to develop her talent. You were always so independent, Nancy. So self-sufficient. You didn't need us the way Madison did. The words hit me like a physical blow. I was independent because you forced me to be, I said. My voice cracked. I worked 3 jobs in college. I ate ramen so often I developed a vitamin deficiency. I wore a $35 suit from Goodwill to job interviews for 6 years because I couldn't afford a new one. I did everything alone because you made it clear that Madison was the investment and I was the expense. But the money was supposed to be mine. Nobody said anything. I didn't ask to be self-sufficient, I continued. I was 7 years old when I stopped asking you for things because I realized Madison would get them instead. I was 12 when I started babysitting to buy my own school supplies. I was 16 when I opened my own bank account because I knew any money I gave you would disappear. I learned not to need you. But that doesn't mean I didn't deserve the money my grandmother left for me. My mother was crying now, silent tears sliding down her face. But she didn't apologize. She didn't say I was wrong. Madison looked at our parents, then at me, then back at them. I'll pay it back, she said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. I'll pay Nancy back, Madison said again. The condo you bought me is worth $520,000 now. I'll sell it. I'll give Nancy half. You will not, my father said sharply. Dad, they stole from her. They stole from her and spent it on me. I lived in private school on her college fund. I went to Florence on money that was supposed to pay for her textbooks. You didn't know, I said. Madison, you didn't know. This isn't your fault. But I benefited. I know, but you were a kid. They were the adults. They're the ones who made the choice. I looked at my father. He was staring at the letter from Grandmother Rose. Finally, slowly, he reached for it, opened the envelope, read it. I watched his face change, watched something crumble. When he finished reading, he set the letter down very carefully. She knew, he whispered. She knew, and she planned all of this. Yes, I said, she never trusted me. No, she didn't. He looked at me, really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in 35 years. What do you want, Nancy? I want the money you stole. $188,000. I want it paid in full within 30 days. I want you to sign a document acknowledging that you violated the trust agreement. And I want you to understand that this isn't me being vindictive. This is me standing up for myself. We can't get $188,000 in 30 days, my mother said. Then get a loan, I said. Or liquidate your retirement accounts, or sell something. You figured out how to spend my college fund. Figure out how to pay it back. My father was silent for a long time. Then he opened his accordion folder, the one he'd brought with him, and started pulling out documents, bank statements, investment account summaries. We can liquidate our money market account, he said quietly. That's $140,000. We can take a personal loan for the remaining $48,000. Vernon, my mother started. We stole from her, Carol. His voice was flat, dead. Mother knew we would. She planned for it. She collected evidence. She was right. He looked at me. She was right about all of it. Donald pulled out a settlement agreement, pre-drafted, ready to sign. This agreement states that Vernon and Carol Austin will pay Nancy Austin $188,000 within 30 days of today's date, he read aloud. In exchange, Nancy agrees to release all claims and waive her right to pursue litigation regarding the misappropriated UTMA trust funds. Both parties agree that this settlement is confidential. Do you accept these terms? My father picked up the pen Donald offered. Signed without reading. My mother signed. I signed. It was done. The meeting ended at 4:41 p.m. Madison stayed in her chair, crying quietly. My parents left without saying goodbye. Just stood up, gathered their papers, and walked out. I didn't stop them. Donald walked me to my car. That was the hardest thing you've ever done, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. Your grandmother would be proud. I started crying then, standing in that parking lot next to my Honda Civic with 174,000 miles. I cried for the first time since my wedding day. The certified check arrived 29 days later, $188,000. The memo line said, Settlement, Estate of Rose Mitchell. I went to U.S. Bank on August 13th at 2:45 p.m. I logged into my Navient account. Current balance, $89,000. I clicked Pay Off Loan. Are you sure? Yes. The screen refreshed. Current balance, $0. I stared at those numbers for 11 minutes and 20 seconds. 17 years of $847 monthly payments. Gone. Finished. Over. I used $50,000 of the remaining money to establish the Rose Mitchell Education Trust, a scholarship fund for first-generation college students at University of Iowa. Students who were working multiple jobs, students who were eating ramen, students who were wearing Goodwill suits to interviews, students who needed someone to see them. The first year, we gave 15 $5,000 scholarships, 15 students who didn't have to choose between tuition and groceries. The application asked one question. Describe a time when you had to choose yourself over someone else's expectations. Every answer made me cry. The rest of the settlement money went into savings, an emergency fund, a down payment fund, a you'll never be trapped by money again fund. My parents didn't call on my birthday that year, or Christmas, or the following year. Madison called me twice. Once in September to tell me she was going to therapy to process being the favorite child. Once in November to ask if we could have coffee. We met at Java House on December 3rd. She bought me a latte. I'm sorry, she said. I know it's not enough. I know I can't fix it. But I'm sorry. I know, I said. Can we be sisters again someday? I don't know, maybe. But not yet. She nodded, cried a little, left. I visited Grandmother Rose's grave on a cold Saturday in January. The ground was frozen. Snow covered her headstone. I brushed it off with my gloved hand. Rose Eleanor Mitchell, 1924 to 2011. Beloved grandmother. Stars burn bright. I brought snickerdoodles. Homemade. Her recipe. Extra cinnamon. You saw me, I whispered to the frozen ground, when nobody else did. You planned for me. You fought for me. Even after you were gone. Thank you, Grandma. Thank you for being my star when I couldn't be my own. The wind picked up. Snow swirled. I liked to think she heard me. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my office at the University of Iowa reviewing applications for the second year of Rose Mitchell scholarships. We're giving 20 students $5,000 each this year. Next year, if the fund grows like I hope, we'll do 25. I have a photo on my desk now. Grandmother Rose and me, age 7, both of us on her porch swing pointing at Venus in the evening sky. She's calling me Little Star. I'm asking if stars get lonely. They don't, I've learned. Not when they burn this bright. If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, type I chose myself in the comments. Or if you're still gathering the courage to make that choice, type I'm getting there. Both are valid. Both are brave. Both matter. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here, for being